Hi there. It's August the 2nd, and we're continuing our progress through Paul's letter to the Romans. And we are in chapter 15, reading from verses 23 through to chapter 16 and verse 9. Paul is really drawing to a conclusion in his letter, and having shared the practical outworkings of this gospel of grace he's been speaking about, he's now addressing his readers in Rome, these Christians who had, or these believers in Jesus who had divided between down ethnic lines, Jews and non-Jews. He's seeking to bring together. And so he says he's going to come to them. His plan is to come to them by going through Rome, staying with them a while, and then going on to Spain. Paul always has in mind the unreached people, the next section in his mission. Of course, we know that his plans were changed around when he goes back to Jerusalem and he's detained there and is arrested, and then he eventually comes to Rome in his appeal to Caesar, but not the way he thought he would. But his heart's desire is to see them, is to come to them. Paul also commends to the people in Rome, the believers in Greece and Achaia who have contributed to the needs of the believers in Jerusalem. And he says, after all, we have received from the Jews, our story has come from the Jews, we've received these great things, it's right and proper that we give to them, that we take part with them. And of course, writing to Rome in this, where there's this division, Paul wants the Jews and the Gentiles to come together. He says, you belong together, you belong to each other. And therefore he commends them to one another with a prayer of peace. He also asks for their prayers as he goes to Jerusalem to not be put off or waylaid by the unbelievers there in Jerusalem. And of course we know that that was a big issue when he did come to Jerusalem. So he's very much in the place of about to go east, but wants also to go west. And then at the beginning of chapter 16, he introduces the character of Phoebe, or Phoebe in Greek. Her name means light bearer, light one. And Phoebe is going to probably to bring the letter that Paul has written with her. And so he's commending her to them as a servant of the church in Cenchrea in Greece, and he's entrusting her with this task. And he wants the Roman believers to give her all of the assistance that they can. Paul in this letter also greets Priscilla and Aquila, and these are the Jewish couple who he met in Corinth and who worked together after they had been expelled from Rome by the Emperor Claudius. So this indicates that Aquila and Priscilla have gone back to Rome and have settled again in Rome, and no doubt are very much embedded in the life of the church in Rome. And he talks about the debt of gratitude that the church owes to them because they worked together so well in Corinth. He also greets Epaenetus, who he says was one of the first believers in Asia Minor. That would have been in the time when he was travelling inland and to Lystra, Derbe, places like that. And also Mary, Andronicus and Junia, Ampliatus and Urbanus. Now, Andronicus and Junia are interesting because Paul mentions them as being among the apostles. Now, some scholars want to suggest that Andronicus and Junia are therefore apostles, and this is interesting because Junia is a feminine name, and therefore the suggestion is, and some would want to maintain, that Junia is included in the apostles as a woman. We can't be certain about that, and there are debates and discussions about it. Some would say that's a misreading of Junia, but actually certainly Paul's approach to women here, his entrusting of this letter to Phoebe for her to carry to Rome, his greeting of Mary, that there is nothing in Paul that sees that women are unimportant or are kept back. In fact, Paul is commending the women in the community, and also for the first time perhaps in that culture, in Greek-speaking culture, women are encouraged to be educated, they're learning, they're reading, they're travelling. The first woman, the first believer in Europe is Lydia in Philippi. So just to be aware of Paul's greeting here, Paul's entrusting part of his ministry to women is very important and close to his heart. We see again here Paul's desire to bring people together. We see his desire for there to be peace in the Messiah, in the way of the Messiah. Wherever we are today, let's bring that peace. Let's honour others. Let's commend others as Paul does with the people that he greets here. And let's know the love that is in the body of Christ. Have a very good August the 2nd.